Todd, you're here this weekend, obviously, for a big fight at the Garden. Talk to us about it.
Well, this weekend is our traditional third year in a row that we've followed up the Heisman with a prize fight. And this year we're at with Terrence Crawford, is going to be the star of Omaha, Nebraska, and probably pound for pound king, is anchoring a terrific show on ESPN. It has been our kind of bunker head for the year. This show, it's doing great ratings, and we think the show is going to do fantastic.
I want to come back to ESPN in a minute. Yeah, I mean, as you say, Terrence Crawford, potentially the second most famous person out of Omaha, Nebraska. What's the relationship like between him and Warren Buffett? Because they have talked about their sort of connectivity in the past.
Yeah, I think Warren takes everybody under his wing in Omaha, and since Terrence is a homegrown product, there is a lot of respect, and Terrence looks up to him a lot, like many of us do, obviously. He's always at all the fights in Omaha. I'm not sure he's coming to New York, but he's a big supporter, and Terrence uses him to help him with advice in his career.
Let's talk about the streaming business. You guys were fairly early adopters at Top Rank in terms of going, with ESPN and having the sort of paid content model. Obviously, we've seen that evolve through what Disney have been doing and ESPN Plus, etc. Last week, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, one of the biggest, most successful sports leagues in the world, said that the pay TV model was broken. Does he have a point?
I think it was a little overreaction, and I think it was taken out of context. I think pay TV is going to exist. I think there's other platforms that will supplement and complement it. So I think, yes, we've always used to get content through pay TV, but now we got our phones, now we got our computers, now we're getting it through all these different mechanisms, like an ESPN product. ESPN Plus product. We are not with the ESPN family, the Disney family. We looked at ESPN Plus as a complementary product. It's not solely on a DTC model. So we use the linear channel as our megaphone and relevance and go back and forth between the two. And that's the important magic between using those ESPN and ESPN Plus products.
But the risk is what? That if everything is direct to consumer, you sort of lose that serendipitous viewer that you might get in a linear fashion.
Well, it's reach, right? When you go to a behind a paywall, your reach is smaller, and the relevance of the product eventually becomes, over time, less and less relevant as your reach has been eliminated.
But this is something, as far as I understand it, that boxing suffered sort of historically, but is now making its way back from. I mean, boxing was one of the first products of anything to go behind the paywall and be sort of, as it were, pay-per-view fights or premium content. And that did obviously damage the ability of the sport to go out and get new viewers, but it seems to have come back a fairly long way from that.
Yeah, well, I think boxing has always had a great success, and the DNA of the consumer knows that a big prize fight was either on closed circuit or on pay-per-view. What happened in the early 70s, was that we went behind a paywall for our primary source of our exposure and our fights. Not just the big ones, but the ones below that. And that was behind a premium cable paywall. That really damaged the sport for its general relevance. And I think that's why you saw in the last 2 years ago, we moved over to the sports to a sports platform like ESPN, and got that general awareness and use that in conjunction with a DTC product.
As we're seeing more and more DTC products across the content and entertainment space, we've seen Comcast doing their own product, Disney have their own product, we're seeing Netflix, lose some of its sort of dominance in that space. What lessons can the content industry learn from boxing and its experiences as a DTC product?
I think it's going to have to learn to balance it. I think it's going to have to learn to say you just can't live on an island behind a paywall. You do need general awareness and a general megaphone to let people know what your product is and who your product is, and the relevance of the product, and occasionally go back and forth between the two. I think if you're on an island by yourself, it's a struggle. I think Netflix was first to the field. They've been incredibly successful, but as we've just seen with the Disney Plus product, they're using all of their linear channels to let you know that there's a great Disney Plus product out there. They're marketing to you through the normal mechanisms that they have and their reach to tell you about this wonderful OTT or product.
If the way we're all consuming content is changing, which it seems like it is at a sort of increasingly rapid rate, how does a sport continue to attract new viewers?
Well, I think you have to use all these platforms. I think you have to use the social platforms. I think you have to use every platform that you have possible as technology grows, and you have to figure out how the content is going to be distributed. I always say it's an appetizer world, not an entree world anymore. People are loving short snippets. They're loving a 15-second clip to a 90-second clip. People are eating that up, voracious appetite for that. So I think you have to use the content carefully, and you have to distribute it vastly.
As the owners of that content, are you able to monetize all those aspects, or does it become sort of lost once it's out there in online and people are able to clip and carry whatever highlights they choose?
So there used to be, we have a very extensive library that dates back to 1966 with a lot of Muhammad Ali fights, and it used to be that every time I saw a fight posted, we'd be like, take it down, well, let's sue them, right? Send them a legal letter, whatever it was. There's a happy medium how you're doing that, and balancing, an extension of your brand, an extension of your product, and using the platforms strategically.